Hey guys! I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful that you guys are subscribing to my channel and commenting and sending me all of this love and support. I really appreciate it. In this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about social anxiety and TRE and how they're extremely interconnected with each other, and how my recent my recent sojourn into TRE has really helped me with my specific sort of social anxiety. TRE stands for Trauma and Tension Releasing Exercise, and was developed by Dr. Berselli. And if you want to learn more about it, I'd absolutely recommend you watch my other videos on TRE or go online and check it out. Basically, it's a form of shaking or tremoring through your body, which is connected to your instinctual brain, the part of your brain, the reptilian brain, if you want to call it, the old part of your brain, not related to the thinking brain at all. So what happens with TRE is that you're able to release past traumas just through the act of shaking all of it out of your body. And this is something that they've noticed that mammals or animals of all kinds do, and especially children. You'll notice that in children, they'll start shaking after a traumatic event, and afterwards they're fine. Same thing with dogs and birds. Ducks, you've seen that do as well, like when they fight and then they kind of shake themselves off and it's all gone. But specifically, adult humans don't do it, or we repress it because we're afraid of looking uncool or we're afraid of looking weak. So I started doing TRE once a week. A long time ago I started doing it, but then I kind of stopped for a bit and I didn't really pay that much attention to the effects of it. But this time around I decided to do it with a proper trainer, and I did it straight through with them for 6 weeks, and then I started doing it on my own. And I've noticed a host of benefits to my psyche, to my physical body, to how I interact with the world, how I interacted with people in general. All of that has changed. But specifically what I wanted to speak to you guys about in this video is social anxiety. And I've done, again, a video on this as well, that I experienced extreme social anxiety when I was young, or younger, when I was in my teens or my early 20s. But now I don't experience it as much so as I did in the past. Or that's what I thought. But as I'm doing TRE each week, I noticed that even the smidgen or the little bit of social anxiety I had in my body, in my mind, with the little things that I do, that's disappearing as well, and that's being dissipated. For example, I have this weird thing about walking outside in public. I feel really uncomfortable and self-conscious, not only because I'm really tall, and I've said this before, I'm taller than most people, especially in Thailand. I'm extremely tall compared to them. And for some reason, I feel, and this is just social anxiety speaking, of course, I feel like people are staring at me and they're making judgments about me and things like that. Now, as I do more and more TRE, I notice that that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of being judged or being stared at, that dissipates. So especially the day after I do TRE, I notice I can walk through busy markets, crowded places, and not care about the people around me, or not notice, even if they're looking at me, it does not bother me, because that social anxiety that it was associated with dissipates. Now, as the week goes on and the TRE's benefits or the shaking benefits gets reduced a little bit, I'll notice that social anxiety creeping up again. So if I don't do TRE for a week, I'll notice that at the end of that week, I am feeling socially anxious again. So I'll be walking down the street and I'll feel that sort of anxiety again, where I'm like, oh, I don't know. I feel like everyone's looking at me. Are my jeans untucked or unzipped? Or am I showing something that I'm not supposed to be showing? Or is there a mark on my face, or things like that? And all of this stuff will come up for me because of social anxiety. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that I'm a very mild case of social anxiety. And so therefore I've noticed that for other people who are in the class who had a higher form of social anxiety, there was one person in my TRE class who was autistic. I don't know what the spectrum that he was on, was he mildly autistic or not, but I noticed that he had extreme social anxiety, that he wouldn't even be able to look at you in the eyes when he first began doing TRE with us, right? But as the weeks went by and he went consistently, he came for 3, 4, 5 weeks, I noticed that at the end of the 5th or 6th week, the last time I saw him, he was actually able to look at me in the eye when I was asking him a question or I was answering something that he said. And that was, for him, I'm sure, an extreme case of progress, right? For him, not being able to look at someone in the eye and then being able to even just glance at them briefly is extreme progress. And that's just the beginning. He's just started his journey and he's going to keep on doing TRE for hopefully a long time. Another thing that I noticed in terms of my own social anxiety is I used to have extreme social anxiety about eating in public. I don't anymore because I've practiced several times and I'm alone here and I have to eat in public occasionally. And I love food, so I want to eat as much as possible. But I used to not be able to eat in public at all. I would be starving to death. I would be so hungry that I wanted to eat so badly, but I could not even pick up a piece of food or a morsel of food and put it in my mouth. It was just too much. And I would starve myself for days on end because there were occasions where I was surrounded by people and I had to eat around people all the time because my family, you know, if I was visiting India or if I was visiting family around the world, there were occasions when I would have to eat around people all the time. And it got so bad that I had to start grabbing the food and then running off into a corner or hiding somewhere and eating it like that. Terrible, absolutely terrible. Now, obviously, now I can go to a restaurant and eat by myself, no problem. But I do notice when my social anxiety gets higher, when I'm not doing TRE or I'm not taking care of myself, my social anxiety obviously fluctuates. And I notice that when it gets higher, that going into a restaurant and sitting down and ordering a meal becomes an absolutely arduous process, an absolutely impossible process sometimes. I can barely stand to go somewhere and sit and eat in front of people. I just can't do it. And again, in those moments, I rather starve myself and be extremely hungry, so much so that I would get a hunger headache, rather than go to a restaurant, order food, and eat food in front of other people. Not only the social anxiety part of eating in public, but also talking to people or talking to strangers comes up as well in that scenario and in general in most scenarios. And so that's why I go into these modes when I'm highly socially anxious, where I completely avoid people as much as possible. I'll sit in my room by myself. I'll order takeaway the whole time. I won't talk to anyone. I won't message anyone. I'll just sit with my curtains drawn, trying to get over this mess that I've created for myself in my head, which is a social anxiety situation. And the same thing I will notice for TRE as well. When I go into these modes, when I do a little bit of TRE, a little bit of shaking and releasing that social anxiety out of my body, I notice that I can go and open the curtains and go out and mingle with people without feeling that stress or without feeling that anxiety that just takes over my body and my mind and my spirit, that I can't even breathe sometimes, right? And so I am not, as I said, I'm a very mild case of social anxiety. I mean, I can do these videos and I can talk to people, I can do public speaking, no problem. I can go out in public and do a lot of things, but there are obviously extreme cases of it, and a lot of autistic people have this syndrome or this thing about social anxiety. So TRE is one of the reasons I have gotten over a lot of my social anxiety, and I really wanted to do this video in order to share that gem or wisdom with you guys. I did not know in the past, in the beginning when I first started doing TRE, that it would help me with my social anxiety so much. I wasn't actually paying attention to it, right? I wasn't even thinking about it. But one of my teachers said something and that triggered something in my head. She said that the more TRE you do, you'll notice that you'll start becoming or feeling safer in this world, so that the people around you or the social situations around you are not going to be a threat anymore. And that's exactly how I feel after I do TRE. Before TRE, I would feel like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and I'm feeling like the universe around me or the world around me or the people around me or the social situations around me, they're all a source of threat. They're a source of danger in some way, shape, or form. It's not like it's a conscious decision that I'm making that that's a danger, but an unconscious signal that is in my head that says that it's a danger, you're in danger, be careful, all of this is a threat, you're in danger, be careful kind of thing, right? It just kind of goes off in my head like a siren, a warning signal. And it's not as if I'm actually, not as if anything around me is an actual threat. I'm not in a war zone. I live in a relatively peaceful country with really nice people around me. And so none of it is actually really truly a threat. But in my social anxiety or in my head, I've created it to be so. As soon as I do a session of TRE, which doesn't take a long time now because I've kind of gotten used to it, so 10 or 15 minutes of it, and I'll notice an instant drop in my anxiety levels, but also an instant drop in my feeling that the world around me is dangerous. All of a sudden, everything feels safer. I feel more grounded. I feel more connected to this world. I feel more connected to everyone who passes by me, no matter if they're a stranger or not. I'm smiling more often. I'm making eye contact more often with strangers or with people passing by me without feeling anxious about it, without feeling like, oh my God, why are they looking at me? Why are they looking at me? What did I do? Etc. Right? And so I can walk through the world after a session of TRE feeling a little bit more safer in my body and also in this world. I can have conversations with strangers. I can go order food in a restaurant without feeling socially anxious. I can have a really long conversation with someone in Thai without feeling like, oh my God, I'm making so many mistakes. All of the stuff that would normally cause me to shut down or to retreat, all of that disappears or dissipates at least for a little while. And I feel that completely changes my perspective on the world that I'm living in and how I want to live in this world. If you live in the world thinking that everything is a threat or everyone is a danger to you, then can you imagine what kind of world you live in, right? I mean, you go out and you think that everyone's going to be against you, or they're going to rob you, or they're going to threaten you, or they're going to kill you, or they're going to hurt you in some way. When in reality, you're not living in the world right now like that, unless you live in a war-torn country or in a war zone of some sort, right? Which is probably unlikely if you're listening to this video. So if you're living in a safe, relatively safe country, in a relatively safe area, then walking outside is not going to be so much of a threat as your mind imagines it to be, right? And so you're making up all of these situations in your head, which is not really the truth. And with TRE, you can kind of take those illusions out of you, or you can kind of start dispelling all of these delusions of yourself or of the world being unsafe for you. You start feeling more and more safe in this world, and you go into the world having more interactive conversations with people, being able to interact with people without feeling scared about it, being able to go into a store and buying something that you need without feeling like you want to run away, or being able to order food and sit down in a restaurant to eat by yourself without feeling like you can't eat in public. And so a lot of changes, especially for me in my own life, have happened because of the fact that I was able to start doing TRE. And a lot of it was changes that I noticed that I didn't even know were problems before, right? That was the issue, really, is that in the past, I wouldn't have known that I was really even feeling socially anxious, because I would be able to go out in the world and pretty much live a normal life. But now I notice a difference between how I behave now versus in the past, and there's a big difference there, right? Which I would not have noticed otherwise if I hadn't started doing TRE. I didn't know that I had a little bit of a mild case of social anxiety until I started doing TRE and started noticing it dissipating. And that's when I realized, that is what's going on really, right? And so that has been absolutely absolutely mind-blowing or a life-changing experience for me, realizing that difference. And therefore, I wanted to share this with you guys, because even if you don't feel social anxiety, or even if you don't have trauma in your life, which is probably surprising if it's true, just doing TRE on a regular basis helps you dispel a lot of the stress and tension that you're holding in your body, which every single person, every single human being on this planet is. And that in itself can be a big deal. If you have back pain, or if you have any kind of shoulder pain or any kind of joint pain, TRE will help release the tension around that as well. So as you can imagine, I highly recommend, if you haven't started yet, or if you haven't experienced TRE yet, I do recommend that you guys go ahead and Google it or find a provider near you and try it at least once. If you just try it, I know you're going to love it. Again, I'm not getting paid by anyone to say this. I really do believe it is one of the most crucial healing modalities out there. Again, if you guys have any questions about this video or any other video at all, please let me know. You can message me below by commenting below, or you can send me an email. All of my contact information is in the description below. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.